So today's was about consistency, which is something that fits very well with my writing style and the blog in general. If blog is still a term, I should say my stack. Um, Happy New Year to everybody that just joined. Um, the consistency has been an issue, and I think a lot of people in a Substack in any venture expect consistency. Consistency means you can log in every day and expect the same person to show up with the same values and the same opinions and the same outlook. And hey, MJ, Happy New Year. Um, I don't know how to do that as a human and be authentic and true to myself because I wake up every day as a different person. And consistency is something that not only for me, I don't find applies to a lot of people in life. They crave consistency, they crave rules, they crave sameness, or they think they do. And I don't know how you come about that because outside of myself, um, the world never delivers consistency. There's always something. There's a sickness or an illness or a death or there's 10,000 things thrown up in your path every day. So, my day one was about gratitude, which is something that I think has a place in society, but I think it gets weaponized. Day two was about low maintenance. If you didn't listen to low maintenance, you need to go listen to that one. Um, it's one that was eye opening for me. Uh, the more I dive into that one, the more evil that can become. But today is about consistency, and consistency really mean in some way be predictable, so we don't have to think about you. And we treat it like it's a virtue, um, and like we should show up the same way every day. We should be reliable. We should be steady. We shouldn't surprise people. We shouldn't change our mind. We shouldn't be erratic or unpredictable, um, or God forbid, eccentric. And I think in a surface way, yeah, consistency matters in some things. You should consistently feed your kids. Obviously, you consistently show up for work, and you consistently, should abstain from driving drunk or doing stupid stuff like that. But somewhere along the way, consistency stopped being about showing up and started being about not changing and not evolving and not living the life true to ourselves and started living our lives true to what everybody else expected us to be. And that's very much what consistency means. It means never evolving, never waking up different, and never deciding that what worked yesterday doesn't work today. And we wake up plenty of times, where what worked yesterday doesn't work today. We have a death in the family, we have a sickness, we have an illness, their job lays us off. And what worked yesterday doesn't work today. And no amount of consistency is going to get you through that day. Um, Consistency is just another word for staying in your lane and for being what other people expect you to be. Um, and the people that love consistency are the people who benefit from you staying that way, from you staying the same. Your boss loves consistency. Your boss loves that you're willing to work late every day. Your boss loves that you're available on every weekend. They love that you consistently take whatever they throw at you. Your friends love that you're consistently the one that plans everything, or you're consistently the one who reaches out first, or you're consistently the one who makes the effort. Your family loves that you're consistently the peacekeeper. They love that you're consistently the one that shows up. You're consistently the one that doesn't rock the boat. And the minute you step out of that lane, it's not that you're trying to get a need met or trying to voice something. It's that you suddenly become a problem. And that's where the issue lies is it's not that, hey, Joe is voicing that he's unhappy and he needs a need met. Joe has now become a problem and he's inconsistent. And that makes me the problem. And that's where we get into trouble with this. Um, moreover, I think being consistent means you can't wake up one day and just decide you're done with something or everything. I mean, that's our right as a human. That's our right as a creation with agency, that we can wake up each day and decide that I am doing this or I'm no longer doing this, or I will be this or I'll no longer be that. You can decide if you're tired of being that glue that holds everybody together, that or that you don't want to go and do the things that you've always done, or you don't want to be the people that the person that everybody counts on every day. And if you evolve or you change, you get labeled as unreliable or flaky, or that you're letting people down. And again, these are external pressures that come from people who have benefited from you staying in a certain lane and being a certain way for them, not for you. And it's a dangerous trap that we get into, because what we do, we turn these people in the mirrors, and when we're consistent in front of them and they reward us for being consistent, then we take that as we're good. And that's not the message we need to take away from this. Um, we need to remember that any system that doesn't allow us to step outside of it for a second and meet our own needs, or meet our own obligations, or meet our own uh, desires, is is not a system that we need to live under, because what we're doing is we're negating our feelings, we're negating ourselves, and then we're erasing what we are in order to become something for somebody else. You know, consistency is a code for don't have a bad day. It's be the same steady, pleasant, dependable version of yourself every day. And we talked about this in a live earlier this week. You know, you show up in a grouchy mood, and suddenly everybody in the room doesn't they don't know who you are anymore, and or you know, you suddenly become the pariah in the room because you decided, hey, you know what, I'm having a bad day. And that comes about especially when you're grieving or you're overwhelmed, or you know, when you're close to a breakdown, because now these people don't know how to relate to you. And what they want is that consistency. What they want is you to maintain that. So it's a trap. Um, you know, consistency is the gold standard for parents. It's just maddening that you're supposed to be completely consistent with discipline, with routines, with your expectations, when you know you're dealing with so much every day, and then we penalize ourselves for falling out of that consistency, and you know, snapping at our kid, or you know, missing a school date, or whatever. And you know, it's just tiring showing up the same way every day. Um, you know, enforcing rules even when you're exhausted, when you're trying to maintain a routine when you're exhausted, and all you want to do is take a nap, and you're consistent, but you're dying inside. Um, you know, you show up to things you don't want to go to. You do things you don't want to do. You honor commitments that are just draining the life out of you, all because you said you would, because you want to maintain that air of consistency. And consistency in anything is exhausting. Consistency in my writing is exhausting. I don't want to write the same crap over and over and over and over every day. And honestly, you know, I'm not judging other people. If that's what floats your boat, do it. But I can't get up and write about the same topic every day. It drives me insane to write about the same topic every day. It drives me insane to write about the same topic every week or every month, because I'm not the same person today that I was yesterday. And what I want to write about or speak about or talk about or do something with today is not the same man that woke up yesterday. And I don't know how that's so hard for us as humans to get through. No matter how hard you try, you cannot wake up tomorrow the same person that you went to bed last night. It will never happen. It cannot happen. It's completely at odds with everything we are as human beings. And you just we just got to live with that. So, you know, that was the thing I decided to throw out this year. That was one of the rules I decided to throw out, was that that consistency, that need to be the same guy every day or to show up every day. And I really fight it with regards to Substack and writing because I know there's an audience that expects this, and I know there's an audience that expects that. And I've just truthfully just got up and I decided if I want to write about this, I'll write about that. And if I don't want, you know, I'll write about whatever I want to. So one of the things I came up with, rather than keeping all this I want, I came up obviously with the things I will do, the things I will show up and do. And I decided, I love being erratic. I love being eccentric. And I like making messes. And I like making messes I don't clean up. So, some days I'll wake up and decide, and I'll write about being a morning person and how wonderful it is to write in the morning. And some mornings I'll get up and I'll decide, that I'm going back to bed and I'll sleep till noon. And I don't care if you think I'm lazy. And then some days I'll wear a suit. Some days I'll wear a hoodie. Some days I'll wear this hoodie 3 days in a row and I really don't care what anybody thinks about it. Um, I may wear a cape tomorrow. I don't know. I'm to the point where I really don't care what people think about the version of me they get that day. So, I'm going to start projects that I don't finish, and I'm going to get wildly enthusiastic about things, for a few days and then forget about them because that's what being human is. And I think the best thing we can do for each other is to model humanity and model being human instead of modeling efficiency and consistency and trying to become robots. And I think it's odd in a time when we are so scared, especially as writers, um, about AI and machines taking over and artificial intelligence take over, when it's really us that is evolving into artificial. It's really humans that are learning to be artificial more than it is the machines. And I've decided, I may have a French phase where I drink coffee from a bowl for a week just to see what it's like, or have a week where I'm really into bird watching, and then next week I don't care about them. Um, I might write about whether or not cereal is soup. I don't know. I and I really don't know whether it is or not. I mean, it might be. I think possibly it is soup, but we'll discuss that on a future episode. Um, I've just decided I'll cancel plans if I want to cancel plans. I'll just say I can't make it tonight, and if they say, why can't you make it? It's just because I don't feel like it. I don't have to give any excuse. I don't have to be sick. I don't have to lie. I don't have to say something to come up. I just don't feel like going. Um, and along with the other things that I talked about this week, the hardest thing to get through with these 40 was I am going to lose people in my life because of this, and that's fine. And if those people were there for my consistency, or they were there because I did this, or they were there because I acted this way, and I decided I want to change and they want to check out, I don't owe another person a piece of my life in order to behave or act a way that I don't benefit from. And that's not selfish. That's another thing we need to get away from. So, um, I don't know what other way to describe this topic than just stating that you just need to be you. And I wrote a piece on New Year's because I'm flooded, obviously, with people. These are my New Year's resolutions. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to become. And we're constantly pinging on this becoming instead of being. And if I have a core philosophy and a core thought to my blog or stack or thought process or speaking or anything, it's that we are what we are, and we don't need to become anything else. We don't need to become this. We can learn a new skill. We can learn a new uh, instrument. We can learn to do something. We can learn things. We can improve things, but we don't have to become something else. We have to Yeah, Ray said, "Are the machines becoming human as we become artificial?" I think in ways, yeah. I I, I have some strong feelings on AI. And Bill's a lot better person to talk to AI than I am. Um, I think the machines are stealing some of our humanity. May be a good way of doing that. I think the machines have stolen some of what it means to be human as we become more artificial. And maybe it's not them becoming human and us becoming artificial as much as us meeting in a center ground. And we've learned how to interact more with machines and technology than we have with each other. And um, as society evolves and moves into a different era of technology, yeah, I think kids learn earlier and more actively how to interface with technology than they do with each other. And I'm, not preaching about social skills or any of that, but I think it's very easy to watch a kid interact with a computer or a machine and to see how they lack the ability sometimes to connect to another human being, if that's what you mean. Um, we've lost a lot of it, and it's odd because even on it's one of the things I fight again because we're on Substack, so I'll talk about Substack. Is that we constantly harp on connection, but connection is not me writing a piece. Connection is not me saying something. Connection is that interaction between you and me when you make a comment or I make a comment on your piece, and we actually have an exchange, an honest, earnest exchange of thoughts and ideas that are unique to that conversation. It's not it's not just reading somebody else. And one of the most I'm off topic, which is going to happen to everyone of mine. I might as well call my podcast off topic. Um, there's a rash of people I've noticed lately, and I read people's comments and I read comments on other people's posts, and there's a rash of people that comment on other people's posts with AI, and you can tell the replies are written by AI, and they'll write a 30 or 40 line comment on somebody else's poem that they just fed to AI and say, give me back a comment so I can connect. And that's not connection. That's bullshit is what that is. I mean, it's happened to me, and I'm smart enough to look at AI now and read and know what is AI, but I have seen this more and more and more. I'm starting to see it on notes. People make notes, and there's a reply below it that was obviously AI generated, and that's not connection. That's not connection. So yes, I do think we're learning to become machines. I think we're learning to jump into the system and become efficient and proficient and go through the motions of doing things without receiving the reward or the true gift of what it is to interact with another human being over something in writing. So, um, and I think it's really, really dishonest. I think it's unfair to an author to go out there and really spill their guts and say something that really, really means something to them, and have somebody else generate a computer generated reply and post it on their site. So that's the long winded answer to your question. Yes, I do. I don't think I think we're meeting in the middle. So going back to the consistency thing, I think it is. I think it's about being whatever you want to be. I think it's getting up in the morning and just deciding, I'm gonna do what I want to do with my family and my children and my life and my time. And I understand we got to work and we've got to meet goals and we've got things that we've got to accomplish. But my big focus this year is that realization that life is chaos and chaos is life, and we cannot get away from that. And um, if you go outside, you look outside your window and you look at the trees, and right now I'm in Chicago, obviously, and it's been snowing and raining and everything. It's nasty, but it's beautiful, and nature doesn't give a damn about consistency. The universe doesn't give a damn about consistency. Nothing that we exist in or of cares about consistency. Even our our universe at its fundamental levels is chaos, and we exist in the middle of this chaos and try to make order out of it with consistency. And when you take that and break it down to its simplest form, it will demonstrate that it doesn't work. You can't remain a consistent device in an inconsistent atmosphere. It doesn't work because everything is working against you. And you're trying to be the one cog in the machine that functions in one order all the time, every day, when the rest of the machine is disassembling and reassembling itself every day. So, there's the thing about, nature. Nature has no straight lines, which is roughly true. Um, but nothing works predictably in nature. Rivers don't flow in predictable patterns, and storms don't check in with you before they ruin your day. And mountains are jagged, and coastlines are rugged, and forests are messy and littered with leaves, and everything is chaos. And us, as arrogant as we are, decide we're going to walk into this wet, wild, crazy earth and say, I'm going to be consistent, and I'm going to be the same guy every day or the same girl every day. And regardless of what happens to me, I'm going to show up the same person. And we fail at it every day and then wonder why we have problems and wonder why we are always at odds with ourselves and why we're beating ourselves up and why we're castigating ourselves every night because we didn't accomplish what we thought we'd accomplish, or we didn't get done what we thought we'd get done, or I didn't get to the gym today, or I didn't get to run my 5 miles today, or I didn't get to do this, or I didn't read my 50 lines today. I'm sorry. I got my little girl. She's chaos too, which I love. So I'm not going to apologize for that. Um, but nature is, I mean, it's beautiful, and it's beautiful because it's chaotic. And I think life is beautiful because it's chaotic. And we got into this in the last podcast too, that life is only beautiful because we have death and because we have that interruption. And our kids are only beautiful because they grow. And everything has a beginning and end, and it's chaos in between that beginning and end. And that's what makes it beautiful is the erratic nature of it, the surprising nature of it, the things that make us most uncomfortable that we fight to stay away from are the things that make our life worth living, the things that make us worth being here. It's and Bill, who's watching this, he was on my podcast the other day. We were discussing this about how it's the interruptions, it's the tragic and the beautiful moments that we remember through life. We don't remember the consistent days. We never remember because nobody writes about a boring consistent day. They write about the birth or the death. They write about the marriage or the divorce. They write about the anger or the hate or the love or the trauma, and that is what makes the life worth living. And the consistency is an effort, a futile effort to get away from that pain and to maintain that one level of sameness all day. So when we delve into art, the art that actually moves you or changes you, the stuff I love reading is it's erratic, it's surprising, it makes me uncomfortable. There's nothing better for me than to log on and read something that makes me hideously uncomfortable because I know it touched something in me. And when I read something like that, when I write something like that, um, I'll take a break and go sit down and say, why do I feel uncomfortable with this? Because it's touching something in me. And the people that can write that are my favorites to read. They're my favorites to go out there and find because I know they've got the courage and the fortitude to go out there and write something that's actually not always beautiful. Sometimes it's nasty and it's ugly and it's sometimes it's just plain violent and gross. But and I'm not saying to do it for the gratuitous side of it. I'm saying because they are touching something real. And um, that's what I want is I want to be moved. I want to be provoked. I want to be spoken to, not at. And when people are writing that way, when they're not afraid to step outside that consistent sameness that everybody else is in and say yes, and just to get just blunt about it, there's trauma. I mean, there's cases of rape and abuse and there's cases of death and there's cases of sickness and then there's the other side of it, the beauty side of it. Those people are the people that are worth reading because they're willing to get down in the mud and wrestle with these questions and step outside of that. And I've done it a few times, and I get the messages and the emails and the calls that said you should have stepped off of that one. That's a little bit heavy. Well, no, what you're telling me is I should have wrote the same thing I did yesterday, so you could feel good about life, and so you could feel good about your world, so you could feel good about things, and not wake up and feel uncomfortable. And I'm done fretting over that crap. I'm done um, worrying about that. Yeah, I don't think you can do it. Well, I think about it. You can do it. There's 8,000 pieces of writing out there, and there's 8 million websites on the internet that you can go to, and you can read the same crap every day. You can read the same people that hate Trump, and the same people that hate Biden, and the same people that hate Republicans, and the same people that hate this and hate that, and love this and love that, and love this, after a while, it's just boring. You I don't know how you get an audience that way. So I've gotten at peace with the fact that I will write something this week and write something next week that completely contradicts what I said last week because that's human nature. I am allowed to change my mind. I am allowed to think differently about things. I am allowed to wander into this great big wide world and think one way and read something one day and it completely changed my outlook on things and then come back the next day and say, you know what? I was full of shit yesterday. And that doesn't make me a liar. It doesn't make me untruthful. It makes me, I paid attention and somebody changed me and this changed me and now I'm a different person. And you know what? Somebody may change my mind next week and I come back the next day and I'll be inconsistent again. And you're just going to have to get over it. So, you know, I was fighting with this morning about writing because I sit down and writing and as I want to do. And the consistency keeps coming back because I have to fight every morning now because I'm not unlike you. I'm not saying I'm any different. I look at my subscribers and I look at my post counts and I look at the likes and I look at the comments and there's that urge within me to write the same thing that got 53 likes last week or 100 likes or 50 comments. But the piece that's trying to speak through me is not wanting to hear that piece and it's not wanting to write that piece. And then we're into the performance category of everything. And what I'm saying is I'm not saying I'm above it. I'm saying I'm over being comfortable with it, which is a different thing entirely. I'm over being comfortable with deceiving myself and deceiving other people and trying to maintain the consistency that doesn't fulfill my life in order to fulfill somebody else's. Um, and yeah, Ellie's right. It's like when a band puts out an album with a totally different sound and everybody freaks out. They're the artist; they're allowed to sing what they want to sing about. And the people to blame for that backlash are the people that are expecting them to keep coming out with the same crap. I love that song. Now I want every song to sound the same. If you want every song to sound the same, go listen to Taylor Swift. Um, every song sounds the same. So I got my dig in on Taylor today, so I'm happy with that. my point is, don't write me hate mail about Taylor Swift. I think Taylor's great. I just don't like her music. Um, I think beauty comes from that mess. It comes from you stop trying to control everything and just start letting it happen to you. And humans are something I've harped on about my mother and with a thousand other people is that we try to control everything, and consistency is a form of control. Just like the two topics I had before today, they're all futile attempts to control a universe and an existence that we can't control. And it does not work. It comes in the chaos. The beauty comes in the chaos. It's in the mess you didn't plan. I mean, every story, every great story that I've told or written wasn't planned. I didn't plan any of it. It was just that's what made it so great. It was the helicopter crashes, and it was the happy accidents, and it was the I even got great stuff from, and it's a great topic this week because you know I've had some, actually two now friends that um, three this week. Actually, I had a friend of mine in the Navy that I roomed with committed suicide this week, and um, had a friend that lost a relative, and these keep coming up. But I don't get in there and give advice. I'm aware, and I try to speak to the people involved with that. So there's a beauty that will come from this too, and you may not find that now. You may not find that in this moment, but you will find out that grief is supplanted by beauty down the road. And as the grief wanes, the beauty of life moves in to replace that grief. And there again, I think people want that when we get into grief, consistency plays a part, because the minute you fall apart, and this is the thing Bill and I talked about the other day, was, if you're in the middle of a workplace, I think Bill will correct me in the chat if I'm wrong about this, but the person was on this, a coworker died. And basically the crux of the story was everybody was allowed 30 minutes to grieve and or to talk. And one of the guys broke down in the office, and basically everybody else in the office treated this guy like he was a pariah, because he broke down in the middle of a corporate environment and started crying. A man crying in the middle of an office, and nobody else knew what to do. Nobody else knew how to console him. Um, and that's a component of his consistency too, because this guy is probably a tough guy. He probably acted the same every day, but the day he broke, nobody knew how to deal with him because that consistency had broken. And because we don't want to accept that humanity is messy, and the mess is being human. That's what we are. We are beautiful, chaotic, absolutely tragic messes. And if you can accept that, it's a lot easier existence. If you try to build a case that we're not, I'll stand here and argue all day with you. So that mess is where we connect. That lack of consistency is where we connect. That celebration of chaos is not celebrating being sloppy. It's not even about caring. It, it's it's about trusting the process more than the product or the outcome when we're talking about life. It's about, sometimes you have to understand that we have to make a mess, that we have to be tragic, that we have to break down in order to produce or be anything worth meaning. So my point going forward would be, I think this year will be the year I celebrate the mess. And Raya said, there's beauty in pain. There is beauty in pain. There's absolutely beauty in pain. And sometimes you have to seek it. Sometimes you have to search for it. Sometimes you have to sit down to find that beauty in the middle of the pain and the anguish and everything going on. But if you will allow it, if you will if you will let it come, it'll come. Even the I mean, it's the only relevant thing I talk about. I don't like talking about it a lot because it gets me emotional. But the day my dad died, I'm talking about my dad, and I'm grieving. I'm obviously grieving my father died, but I found myself sitting there laughing and telling stories about him. And um, some would say that's a coping mechanism or that's whatever, but it was celebrating the beauty that was his life in relation to mine. And the that's finding the beauty in that mess. So you know it's going to be sloppy this year, and I'm not going to clean everything up, and I'm not going to fight over everything being perfect and every sentence of every piece of work being perfect, and I'm just going to go with it. So, in closing, because I don't want to keep you guys here forever, I know some people are going to hate this and they're going to want the old version. And I've already had comments and I've already lost some subscribers over it because I don't remain consistent. And they don't like the new writing and they don't like the new version of me. And you know what? I love every one of you. I'm grateful for everybody that reads me. But if you find out I'm not for you, then I understand, and you're welcome to go read somebody else. I refuse to be a guy that spits out the same thing every day just to hit a certain word count or subscriber count. I'm just not going to do it. This week I've written a piece that's probably going to piss off half my readership, a piece on driving a Ferrari, and a piece on something else that had none of them are related to each other. It's just what I want to do. And, you know, I'm sure people are going to see this mess and say, "Hey, Joe, when you're going to clean that up?" And I'm not. I'm not going to clean it up. I am not going to do it differently. I am not going to go back and do it. I'm just going to throw it out there. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And I think we as humans need to learn how to do that more. We need to walk out the door every morning and say, "This is the me you get, and I'm not the me I was yesterday." And if you don't like it, then piss off. You don't need to hang out with me today. If you don't want to be with me today, that's fine. I'm I'm not speaking about this from a point of greed. I'm talking about this from a point of view of being honest and earnest and loyal to ourselves and loving who we are. And this whole notion, and the reason I want to get on video today of this grates me on the resolutions where people are, I will become this, or I will do this, or I will change this out. And who is really saying that you need to? If you want to go get buff and built and strong because you want to, go do it. If you want to do it because the world expects you to look like a bikini model, then go sit on the couch and eat popcorn. Because it's not going to be rewarding today, and it's not going to be rewarding when you become the bikini model. You know, it, it's not going to change anything. You do you, and you should be you. And another thing we brought up the podcast today, that I think this is the most beautiful thing about creation is there's 8 odd billion human beings on the face of this earth, and not one of us, not a single one of us, will take the same journey from one end to the other. And if that doesn't say something about chaos, then I don't know how to explain chaos. When you have 8 billion living creatures on this earth that go completely separate ways to arrive at the same destination, which is death, that's chaos. There's no other way to put it. So, what I'm going to do this year, I'm going to be erratic. I'm going to be eccentric, and I'm going to make messes that I don't clean up. I'm going to change my mind. I'll contradict myself. I'll be completely tomorrow than I am today. I'll make things that don't sound like anything I've ever written. I'm going to break my own rules. I'll make creative choices that don't make any sense to anybody but myself. And that's one of my biggest things before I cut everybody and head out to lunch or whatever. Do what makes you happy, write what makes you happy. I don't care if it's punctuated. I don't care if it's phrased correctly. I don't care if the words make sense every time. Do you, because that's what the world needs. It's not what the world wants or thinks it wants, but that's what the world needs. The world needs you to be you. The world needs you to go out there and be chaos, because the more of us that are chaos, the more we allow the other people to be chaos. It's just like the more of us that go out there and show love instead of hate, the more of us that'll start to do that. And I don't mean this peace dude type atmosphere. I mean, we live in a society now that thrives on anger and contention. And I confess to it this week. I'm as bad as anybody to get on social media and start blasting other people because I disagree with them. But we need to change that behavior, and we need to model something. And what I've learned in my older years now is that it takes way more strength to show love than it does hate. And it takes way, way, way more courage to sit in front of a group of people and cry and feel and bleed and hurt than it does to sit there and be stoic and be manly and be masculine and pretend that you're a badass. And it takes way more to sit down at that computer and say, this right here is the truth about me, than it does to sit there and bullshit and brag and boast your way through an existence. And that's the type of people that I want in my life. And that's the type of people that I want to be. You know, I may not be consistent, but I will be consistently me. And consistently me means I'm doing the best I can to be honestly, earnestly in the moment and how I am that day. So if you haven't listened to the other two, um, I would urge you to go do it. Low maintenance was a great one. Um, Especially, I think being low maintenance was one of the eye opening ones for me, because I got to another one of my facets this year was I'm trying to look at the lens of the world through people other than me. And that doesn't mean just different politics. It means looking at the eyes of the world through women, looking at the eyes of the world through different religions, through different people, and see how the lens that they view the world through. And um, one of the, in the low maintenance, when I got to thinking about it, I was like, being low maintenance is bad for a man, but it's horrific for a woman. And um, it's one of the areas of my life where I'm genuinely grateful that I'm a man instead of a woman, because I think it's horrendous what women have to go through to be considered. And I'm not saying that in a patronizing way. Don't take it that way. Go listen to the podcast and you'll hear what I'm talking about. But when I really got into it, my first draft of it was like, well, you'd be low maintenance as this, and this. Now I talk about, no, there's sexual harassment. There's all kind of stuff. You can go read it. I'm not going to get into it here. And then the other one was about gratitude, because I think that's another thing this year that struck me is I've read 10,000 posts on gratitude. And gratitude has become another one of these toxic traits where we're taught to be gracious for everything, regardless of whether there's scraps or not. And I don't think that's what this universe is about. I'm gracious for my family. I'm gracious for my children. I'm gracious for all the good things I've got in my life. But that doesn't mean I have to settle for just what I've been given. And as we go through these 40 rules, you'll realize that's just what they are. They're rules. They're things we've been taught and things we've been programmed into. And to go back to the earlier questions, are we learning to become machines? Absolutely, we are. We take rules and we feed them into ourselves, and we think this is how we're programmed and this is how we're supposed to act. And nothing is more untrue. We can't do it. It's something so fundamentally inconsistent with being a human being that I struggle to even how to describe it. We don't operate that way, and we're never going to operate that way. So I'm not going to discuss the 40 rules ahead of time. I'm not going to share them because they get a little bit weirder every day. And in an odd way, I didn't know this until I did it. My first 15 posts were similar to this, but these are a lot more in depth. and a lot more insightful, because what my writing has been a year of me putting down my honest thoughts and my honest feelings, and then going back and reading them on the last 2 weeks of this year. And I'm honest about it. I said this other day. Some of them I'm like, man, that was great. And some of them like, damn, dude, you're an idiot. I don't even know why you said that, but that's part of being human too. And I hope you enjoy them. And if you don't check out anything else this week, I'll post the Ferrari piece. You should read it, even if you don't like cars, because it's probably one of the best. It's one of the most. It's the most fun I've ever had writing. So, or one of them. So, you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope you all have a wonderful new year. And I look very much forward to reading a lot of what comes out. Um, you guys have been outstanding this year, and I do want to say that all of you, some of you guys have just been. I don't always get to comment because I've been busy, or I've been doing things, but know I'm out there reading your work, and know that even sometimes when I don't say so, I'm standing there clapping for you. And I think it's wonderful that um, I'm in the company of some of you, and I've learned from every one of you. And the only thing I'm trying to do here is return a little bit of the favor. So I bless everybody, and hope you have a wonderful new year. And we'll see you sometime next week. Tomorrow I'll be in a podcast only, but happy New Year, everybody, and have a wonderful day.